Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Marissa Explains It All. Today I am showing you guys some of the really cute things that I have crafted for fall. It's my favorite season and I couldn't wait to decorate, so come along the ride with me as I make these 7 fall items. I was inspired by this inspiration picture on Pinterest, which is kind of like a boho chic, really warm tones, a lot of textures. Really loved the neutrals this year with just kind of pops of rust color. So that's what I decided to do and decorate with. I'm showing you maybe a mixture between that and maybe just a slight bit of farmhouse. So if that sounds interesting, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video, and let's get started. So first up is this really cute boho wreath. I found this on Etsy for between $50 and $150 depending on the seller. So I wanted to make it myself for cheaper. I first needed a 16-inch wreath form, and I found this at Michael's. This is an MDF wreath form by the Ashland brand. I got this for $6.28, a little bit on sale at Michael's. And next I purchased some split wood beads. These are 40mm wood beads, and I was able to get 20 pieces for $12 on Amazon, and I've linked that below. Also need some floral fall picks, and I got these all for $8. They were on a half off sale. They usually put their decor on sale. Each one is about $4, but half off it is about $2. So I got all of those for $8. And also need a hot glue gun. I like my nice big industrial glue gun for this. So I'm going to cover the top half here in beads, and so just very simply, grab your bead, add a huge dollop, and press firmly on the wreath form. I like a flat wreath form for this because the flat wood beads just adhere really nicely and give it like a nice surface area for it to cling to. And so add them all on, and then it is time to start looking at your floral placement. So this is what it looks like all done, and wanted to go ahead and start laying out all of my items, just trying to figure out what looks best and get an idea of making sure I'm not too unbalanced on one side or another. So I use hot glue to actually glue my floral stems down. A lot of people, you will use wire, floral wire, and that's fine too, but I just feel like I don't have time for that. So I just hot glue everything down. If it moves, just hot glue it. Make sure it's even on both sides, of course. And then I added a pumpkin in the center, and I love how it turned out. Super cute, definitely giving me those boho vibes with the sawgrass and the unfinished wood beads. And the final crafted cost for this was $27. So definitely a good bargain and a lot cheaper than the listings online. So I'm very happy with this one. Next up is this really cute plaid wreath, and I love this. I saw this on Etsy and I had to make it. It was $58, and I figured I could make it just a little bit cheaper. And so in terms of supplies, you'll first need a wreath form. I'm using a 16-inch MDF flat wreath form from Michael's for $6.28 on sale, or for something cheaper you can actually use a embroidery hoop. And so you can buy a 14-inch hoop at Michael's for $3.50. Today I'm going to use a 10-inch embroidery hoop because it's something I already have. Next up, you'll need some plaid fabric. This is a half yard of fabric that I got for $3 at Joann Fabrics. It was the closest plaid that I could find to the design. Make sure it's enough to cover the width of your wreath form, and then enough to also wrap around. And so I think half a yard was the perfect amount to cover a 14 or 16-inch wreath form. And it's certainly enough to cover my tiny little 10-inch embroidery hoop. You'll also need some lettering. I cut the words Hello Fall out of a cardstock with my silhouette cameo, but you can buy these for $6 actually from Etsy in wood. And so that would be a preferred choice if you're going to put it outdoors at $6 again for a 9-inch by 10.5-inch piece of wood. But I just chose to do this because I didn't want to wait for it to be shipped in. Next, you'll need some things to decorate. For a few dollars, you can get a burlap ribbon or some fall picks, and of course your glue gun. So to start, if you like the way the embroidery hoop looks, you can just do that. So lay your fabric over your embroidery hoop and hoop it if you're using this option. This, of course, has the hoop showing, and that's what it would look like. You can cut off the excess. I don't like this look, and I did want to kind of use the no-show kind of wrapped option, and so I did use an embroidery hoop, but you, of course, would use the wreath form if you wanted to be a little more, fancy with it. So I'm just using hot glue to tack this down from the top, and then, of course, I'm putting a little tension on it. Not enough to warp the plaid fabric, but just a little making a little tension, and then apply a little more hot glue and wrap it and hold it till it dries. And I just continue gluing all the way around and applying a little bit of tension without pulling the fabric too much to warp the design. Once you're done, this is what it looks like. Flip it over and you can see you have some nice covered edges, which I really enjoy. So this is why I chose this option instead of the hoop. Next, you'll apply your letters. I'm just laying out my cardstock, but of course you would use wood ideally. So just glue those down and then it'll be time to decorate. So I don't have much room to decorate because my hoop is only 10 inches, but this is what it looks like so far. And I'm just going to add some burlap and maybe a fall pick to it. I'm just kind of playing around with what it looks like and where it will go. I do like the idea of going on the top corner, and so I'll start with some burlap ribbon. So mine is so small that I don't need this whole burlap width of the ribbon, so I cut this in half lengthwise, and you can do different edges. You can cut it diagonally, or you can fold it in half and cut it one way or another. That's what it looks like if you cut it this way, and then of course if you fold it in half and fold it to the left, you get that shape, and if you fold it in half and cut it to the right, you get a different shape. So definitely just play around with whatever ends that you like the look of. I'm doing a mixture of all three and just gluing these together, kind of stacking on top and gluing just to make a few layers for my burlap ribbon. And then I'm going to take my hot glue gun and just kind of pinch and glue the middle, and then once I have a nice little 3D bow, attach it to my wreath. Now I'm just applying a little fall pick to the middle, just something to give it a little shape to it, and some color. So just to glue anything that you find on. Next, I'm just adding a little bit of thick twine or jute to the back so that I can hang my wreath. So cut yourself a nice piece, maybe a few inches long, and I just hot glued that to the back. I did end up adding a little bit of maroon burlap ribbon to it just to give it a little more color and bring out those colors in the picks, and then just pick off all the extra little burlap strings, and then this one is a wrap. This is what it looks like. I love how it turned out, super cute, and I can't wait to hang it. I'm probably going to use this one on the interior of my house, and for me this was only $3 because I used paper, but if you bought the wood it would be $20 total cost. So next up are these wood vases, and I thought these was so pretty. I saw these for $30 to $50 from Kirkland's or West Elm, and I just love the different textures that it brings to a space. So to do this, I'm actually using a Dollar Tree vase, but you could also look at the thrift store for vases that are maybe bigger, but as long as it's a straight wall. Next, you'll need contact paper in a wood grain finish, and I saw these from Amazon. They sell these in different finishes, dark wood and ash wood. One's $5 and one's $6, and I was really impressed with these, the way that they looked so realistic. Next, you'll need some filler greenery for your vase, and I got this for $5 at Michael's on sale. All their stuff is like half off right now, fall clearance, and I like the way that looked in the vase. And of course, you will need some scissors as well to cut your contact paper. And check out the amazing quality of this wood grain. It is so beautiful. It looks just real, and I just love the texture that they put in here, so I really appreciated the quality of that. So to start, go ahead and lay your vase down at the base of your contact paper, and you're gonna just roll it to try to get an idea of how much you'll need to cut. And so I just kind of start at the base there, and it is a straight up and down vase. Like I said, it's gonna be difficult to cover contours, of course. So I'm just going to cut a little notch to mark where I want to cut, and you can just have a little extra if you want. Take a flat edge like a ruler. This would always help. It helps me to mark out where you need to cut. Just make a nice straight line. It all does help to have something straight. And then go ahead and cut that out, and then time to mark the top of your vase. So I'm just using maybe 1.5 inches, maybe 1 or 2 inches past the top of my vase, and again marking and cutting that. So go ahead and start by peeling back just the little bit of the edge of your contact paper. This is how I always prefer to apply contact paper. It makes it a lot easier. Just peel back the top lip and bend down and crease the backing. So put your project on it. So we're going to go ahead and lay our vase down and try to line it up with the bottom edge of the vase. And this is important to try to get it straight up and down. It's going to be very difficult, and you'll get sort of off center, and it won't look right if it's not straight. So make sure you can get it straight up and down, and I felt like mine was a little bit crooked and it wouldn't wrap right. So of course you can reposition this just to pick up and down, and of course I lost a little grip here, but reposition it until you get it right. And then simply remove your backing a little bit at a time as you roll your vase around. So it's a very simple method that should help with the air bubbles to do it this way, nice and smooth. So you can press out any air bubbles you find with your fingers, of course. It's very easy to reposition. This is a really good, I think, quality contact paper, so you should be able to pick it up and reposition it as best you can. And so I of course was a little bit off here. You can see it wasn't exactly straight, but it was good enough for the purpose I'm using it for. I am just wrapping the edges around here. I didn't love the way this ended up looking with all the little creases, so I may not wrap it again. I would have maybe done it flush with the vase, or maybe even underneath and wrap it underneath. After I smoothed out any air bubbles, this is what it looked like, and it was so cute. I was really impressed with just how much it looks like actual wood. So let's take care of the top. If you were to actually fold this down, you would get some creases just like the bottom there, and so the best way to do this is to actually cut yourself a bunch of little notches and fold it down over the lip. And so the more notches I did, the better. So I actually started with just one, and then I realized I would need a ton more. So I just cut and was very generous with the notches and folded them all down, and that gave a much better finish for the top. This is what it looks like all done. I was very happy with how this turned out. It's a really pretty little piece, and this was able to be crafted for $7. Next up is a wood frame sign. So I saw this on Pinterest from a seller called Between You and Me Signs, and it was $125, and I was shocked. It was a 16 by 24 frame, but instead I found my 16 by 24 frame at the thrift store for $5. And so I started with that. You'll need a poster board if the backing of your picture is not white, and so I just picked up a Dollar Tree poster board. And then you'll need some lettering, and so I'm using my Silhouette Cameo to cut this, but you can buy from Etsy sellers, or you can hand letter it or print it with your hands or stencil it, however you want to get the wording on. So starting out, I am just going to take the back of my picture. Don't worry about the wireframe. You can actually cut this off if you wanted to, but I wanted to leave it on just in case I ever use the frame for something else. Again, I can use it and hang it. So just take your scissors, cut off the back paper, and usually there's like a cardboard and like backing and some matting in there if it's a nice frame. So take up the staples with your scissors. This is kind of difficult to do with your hands, but it's perfect for little scissor blades just to grab underneath there. Take these staples all up and just kind of pry them all up so that you can take out your cardboard. Pop out that cardboard and take a look at what your paper looks like. If you can use the back of your painting and put the lettering on that, that works just fine. And I found that I could actually, this side did not look very good. It had some discoloration and some things to it, so I couldn't use this side. I discarded that, but I used another piece that was in there. It was like to the back of the backing, or the back of the mat. So when I flipped it around, I saw that this was usable for me. I was impressed. So it was white and it was thick, and so I'm just going to use this as my front, but if you didn't, you could use poster board. So I didn't end up needing the poster board, but I did cut out my letters. I used a couple different fonts from defont.com. I used the font called Ann Terry for the word Thanksgiving, and I used Times New Roman for the rest of the letters. Cut myself some vinyl, and here it is. I didn't actually have enough black vinyl. I ran out, and I didn't want to go to Michael's, so it's a little short. I would have probably done this a little bit bigger, but I was using the last of what I had for black vinyl, so it's a little smaller than I intended. But here I am applying it to my transfer tape. Once it's off the transfer tape, I went ahead and applied my vinyl. Just make sure this is level. I had a hard time trying to get it level. It was the camera was kind of in the way, so I had to kind of tilt it and get it level. But once you peel off your transfer tape, then this is what it looks like, and it turned out really good. I love it. So this is what it looks like, and then just pop your piece back into your frame, put your cardboard back in, of course, and then put those staples back on. And this is how it turned out. It is super cute. I love how neutral it is, how it goes with anything, and it really could be used for farmhouse or for boho. And then I discovered that if you actually take the glass out, it looks more like wood. So you can see here, I just took the glass out, and then there's no reflection on it. So for me, it cost $6, but if you had to buy the vinyl lettering and from Etsy, it would cost you about $20. Next up are these sweater pillows, and I was loving how cozy these looked. And I saw these for $70 on Pottery Barn or $20 at Target, and I figured I could make these slightly cheaper. And so to start, I found some thrift store sweaters. I was really impressed that I found these too. I found this rust-colored sweater that has this really great sort of herringbone almost pattern to it, this diagonal pattern to it with the, it's knit down the middle. And then I found this other sweater at the thrift store at men's 2XL, which was perfect for a nice large pillow. And both sweaters cost me $8. They were about $4 each. And I loved the just horizontal knit look of this one. I thought this made a better pillow than it did a sweater. You'll of course need a hot glue gun if you're doing a no-sew option, or a sewing machine if you have one, and then polyfill. And so polyfill is $15 for a 32-ounce bag from Amazon, or you can buy this from Joanna or Walmart, or you can even buy thrift store pillows and just kind of wash them and use the stuffing from that. This will be the biggest cost for you. I already have polyfill on hand, so I didn't need to buy any. You'll need some scissors, of course, to cut your fabric, and then it helps to have a ruler. So first I'm going to get rid of this ribbing because I don't want this in my pillow. So I don't need this, and go ahead and kind of cut it off the bottom. Next I'm just trying to get an idea of how tall my pillow should be and where I should cut it. It's hard because these sleeves kind of go inward and they cut off the real estate that I have for my pillow. So I'm kind of just measuring how far it is from armpit to armpit so that then I could measure how tall the pillow is and make it sure it was square. I ended up with something like 23 inches or so for mine, and I went ahead and just cut my pillow into a nice square. Cut all the sleeves off and just make sure it's nice and square. Otherwise, I would have actually really liked to keep these side sewing, but I wasn't able to with the way that the sleeves were. So take your fabric and turn it right sides together, so the nice sides to be facing each other. So layer those on top, and then I'm just going to, if you were sewing, you would sew, of course, 3 sides, leave a gap, sew the rest of it, stuff it, and then sew the hole closed. We're going to do the same concept, but with hot glue, of course. So write a nice thick seam down. I do like to use a large glue gun for this purpose. Just hold it down and solidify it until it dries. Do 3 sides, and then leave yourself a little gap, and then do the fourth side. You'll want to go ahead and turn your pillow inside out. So this is where we're going to stuff it, but turn it inside out first, and use your fingers to kind of poke out the corners. Go ahead and shove the polyfill into the corners pretty well so that it makes a nice sharp corner, if you can. And I did use maybe half a bag for this, so this one was quite a large pillow and it would use a lot of polyfill. Go ahead and glue your seam shut just by adding some glue. Be careful, the glue is hot. Definitely avoid glue burns, but just try the best you can to kind of tuck it under and make yourself a little seam with hot glue. This will be, of course, a little bit easier if you were able to hand stitch it. That's also an option. And here it is all done, and I love how it turned out. I just love the texture that it brings, and like I said, it made a much better sweater pillow than it did a sweater. So here it lives up close and what it looks like. And next up, I'm going to do the same thing and same process with the rust colored pillow. So I'm just cutting off the bottom ribbing, and this one I'm not able to get as much of a square as I am more of just a rectangle because it was kind of a short, small sweater. But this is what it looks like, and I was able to keep the side seams, so I didn't have to do 4 seams. I'm able to just kind of glue one side down completely, and then glue most of the other side down and leave a hole for me to add my stuffing. And I did not wait for the glue to dry, so definitely don't do that. My opening ended up being bigger than it should have because the hot glue wasn't all the way solidified. So make sure it's all the way dry before you start trying to put pressure on it by adding your stuffing. But I also wanted tassels to this one, so take your ribbing piece or any little piece and just kind of start fluffing up some of the yarn. And you're looking to get this nice, like long pieces of yarn. And mine was stretchy. This is kind of a stretchy sweater, and so mine has elastic thread in it. So just kind of peel that away, this little elastic fluff, you don't need that. And once you peel that away from the thread, it's just a normal piece of yarn that you can use for your tassels. So repeat this process and just kind of harvest as much yarn as you can. And we'll start looking to make our tassels. It was a little bit difficult, mine kept kind of breaking off, but if you like the look of the tassels, it's worth it. Take your yarn and start wrapping it around however long you want your tassel to be. I thought 4 fingers width was enough for my tassels, and so I did go ahead and just kind of keep wrapping. And it doesn't really matter if there's a bunch of little short pieces, it's fine. Go ahead and take your scissors and cut one end, and then take a loose piece of yarn and tie the middle pretty tightly. And then you'll end up with something like this, and then you can just kind of make it level by cutting off the end, make it all nice and even. And I did a very small tassel. I think you would probably want to add at least 2 to 3 times more to this to make it more full, of course. I hot glued those on, and this is what it looks like. It's really cute. I think I probably would have done more tassels. So I was able to make this for a total cost of $4 for each pillow because I already had the polyfill, but if you had to buy it, it would cost you about $11 per pillow. Next up are these really cute velvet pumpkins, and I really liked the texture that they spring. I found these for $7 to $10 on Amazon. You can get different kinds and different colors, so this one actually may not be cheaper to make than to buy, but I have some already from last year from Michael's. These are some velvet pumpkins that are actually over a styrofoam kind of core in the center, so they have a styrofoam pumpkin inside, and you can just cover those with stretch velvet and hot glue those on if you have a form, but I'm going to show you ones that just use polyfill. So you'll need stretch velvet, of course. I found this really cute kind of salmon-y, pumpkin-y color for $6. It's a half a yard from Joann Fabrics, and it's very stretchy. It does help to have the stretch fabric, although you can do pumpkins in different cloth, textures. I got that color, and I got white as well for more of a neutral pumpkin. And so you'll need some polyfill. You don't need much of this actually. You can get a 12-ounce bag for $5.99 on Amazon, and so you'll just need a tiny bit of fluff for this, or you can repurpose something if you already have it, like a stuffed animal. Needle and thread you'll need next to kind of sew our pumpkin closed, and then some scissors. And then for pumpkin stems, you can actually buy the stems. They sell them on Amazon for $9 for this giant pack, which is great. You get 24, that's a good deal. But I'm going to make mine out of some paper bag and some Mod Podge. And you can also use craft paper from the Dollar Tree. And I think they sell the Mod Podge now at the Dollar Tree as well, so that's a great value. And then some craft paint. These are under $1 at Michael's or any craft store. Just going to maybe use the dark brown one today, but you could do a bougie pumpkin or maybe even spray paint for a couple bucks. You can get all the supplies for a pumpkin for maybe about $4. You'll need some beans or popcorn or rice or something to weight your pumpkin down. I'm just using some rice that I have on hand. So go ahead and take your fabric and cut to the size that you want. I'm going to do a 12 by 12 pumpkin today, so I'm going to cut a 12 by 12 square of fabric for mine. I'm just going to kind of cut one side, make it diagonal, and then cut the other side to get a square, and then I fold it in half again twice more, kind of like you would do for maybe like a paper snowflake. And I'm going to round out the edge, cut that, and it actually ended up being more of a square, rounded square, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter. Square, round is fine. Thread your needle and make sure that you double that thread over so that you have two pieces of thread or two layers of thread. Go ahead and knot the end, and then we'll begin with a gathering stitch, or a running stitch sometimes it's called. And basically you're looking to do just this large basting stitch where you're doing big stitches, just a simple up and down, in and out motion, and wanting to make your stitches quite large. The key here is to make sure that you're doing an inch maybe or so per stitch, and then an inch in between stitches. And so you want your stitches to be nice and spread out. You don't want them to be too tight. When you go to pull on that, it'll gather up, and you don't want to have any issues there. So continue that all the way around. That's kind of an example of what it'll look like, and continue that around. I ran out of room, so I'm just pulling some preemptively here. This is what you're going to end up doing in the end anyway, is just gather it up. So do that and finish out your stitching. Then add maybe just a 1/4 cup of your weighted base, whatever you're going to use, and start stuffing. I did not need much stuffing for this at all. Grab your thread and pull it closed, and then you can start adding actually more fluff and start shaping your pumpkin. I'm just going to shove more up into the top edges to make my shoulder kind of pieces, just to make it look a little bit more like a pumpkin, a little bit less like a circle. So I'm just kind of shoving some up in the top there. Just go ahead and close your pumpkin, tie off the thread, and just knot it pretty well. And don't pull too tight because it will pop. This is what it looks like. I wasn't able to get the thread too tight. I didn't want to pop it. So to make our stems, just take a craft foam brush and your Mod Podge and your paper bag, or you can use craft paper. Just using brown because I like the neutral look. Just go ahead and take your Mod Podge and cover the whole bag, and then begin to roll up from the bottom. I did find that the craft paper made a more realistic look. That was a little bit tougher with the plastic bag or paper bag, so I do recommend the craft paper. Go ahead and twist it. Just to make like a nice tight stem, where you can actually cut yourself a little tendril if you wanted like a little piece kind of coming off, or you don't have to do that. That's kind of optional, but I just like the way that looked. And then once you're done, you're going to cover the whole thing again in Mod Podge. So I just glued the entire stem from top to bottom, make it all nice and solidified, and when it dries, set it off to dry. When it dries, it looks like this with the matte finish, and then I'm going to go ahead and paint it. And so I started by just pressing the brown paint into the crevices, and then I really just liked the way that the brown paint looked all over. So I just covered the whole thing in brown paint and painted it all brown. And I just wanted a natural looking stem, so that's what it looked like. I didn't paint the bottom because I knew it was going to be in the pumpkin anyway, so it didn't really matter to me to have the bottom covered. And this is what it looks like when it's all dried. It looks pretty natural and pretty realistic, especially from, you know, a distance. So then I'm just taking my hot glue gun and go ahead and glue in your stem. And you can add a leaf if you like from a natural plant, fall pick or a Dollar Tree stem, but this looks pretty good without it. I think it looks a little bit nicer without it for what I wanted to do. And so for this is what it looks like with a couple white ones made. And so for me, I was able to do these for about $2 each, but if buying the polyfill, it's about $6 to $7 each, especially if you buy the stems. Next up is a centerpiece for your table, and I was finding that I could get these for maybe $20 to $40 on Amazon, but I wanted to make it myself for cheaper. So I bought a Dollar Tree foam core board, and of course I'm using my favorite contact paper in the ash wood finish now. This is $5, of course linked below. And to decorate, I'm using some lamb's ear garland. I got this for $12 on sale at Michael's. They sell it for $18 as well on Amazon, and I just wanted kind of a little bit of a farmhouse vibe to that. And then some fall picks. I got these for $8 on sale at Michael's, half off. And some scissors you'll need, as well as your hot glue gun. I have my big one here, and an X-Acto knife. And of course, a ruler would make it easier. So to begin, you'll go ahead and just figure out how tall and how long you want your piece to be. I'm deciding to make mine 5 inches tall, and then I wanted to do maybe 18 inches long. And so this actually is exactly the size of my ruler. So I'm just going to trace out with a pencil the exact size that I want. And make 3 pieces of this. This will be your 2 sides and the bottom of your box. And then begin to cut with using a straight edge and your X-Acto knife. It is easier to cut with using a straight edge, and make sure you don't cut on your table. I'm using a mat underneath. And then flip your foam core board over and then cut from the back as well. It helps make a nice neat edge if you cut it from both sides. This is what it looks like, just a little bit of a cleaner edge, and then cut yourself your end pieces. And so I'm using, of course, 5 high and then 5 wide. This is what it looks like with my 5 pieces cut out. And then we cover with contact paper. So I'm going to cover the inside first with contact paper individually. I think it looks nicer than just having a white foam core center. I want it to look like wood in and out, and I'm going to cover these pieces individually. So just trace your foam core board onto your contact paper, cut those out, and then begin to apply those to the interior of your box. So again, my favorite method here, just fold down the backing, stick the little sticky bit down, and then peel the backing away. And I am using a ruler here to help me with this process. It does help just to have a straight edge to smooth out the air bubbles as you go along, pulling the backing at the same time, and it just provides like a nice clean experience. So this is what it looks like with all of my interior pieces all covered in contact paper. We're going to glue it together and then cover the exterior as one piece. And so I discovered that as I was kind of laying everything out, that I really needed to have these glued to the outside of the bottom piece rather than sitting on top of the bottom piece. And so for that, I needed to actually cut the bottom just a little bit more. So take your 2 side pieces, put them together, and then lay them on top of your bottom piece and just kind of use a pencil to mark out how much you can need to cut off of the bottom. And so you could do this beforehand. I just kind of discovered after the fact that I needed to cut a little more off. So I did that. And that way, when you line up your pieces and lay them and glue them to the outside, then the end caps will fit in versus the inside where you would have a seam on the bottom. It doesn't look good. So go ahead and run yourself a nice piece of hot glue and glue your box side to the bottom, just making sure that it's straight up and down and there's no bowing. Just make that nice 90-degree angle. And then I do run another seam of hot glue in the center in the interior just to use as caulking to make sure it's nice and stable. You don't have to do this, but it's just something that I like to do. And then complete the other side of your box, hold that in place till it dries, and then glue on your end pieces as well. And then once all the pieces are nice and dry, then we can move on to cover your exterior with contact paper. So I'm getting an idea now of how much I'll need. I'm just going to wrap the whole end to end, and I'm going with the wood grain being horizontal. And so just wrap it all the way around and mark yourself where you need to end. Go ahead, and then I'm leaving myself maybe a 1/2 inch on top to kind of fold it over and blend in with the inside of the box, and then just a 1/2 inch on the bottom as well. So same method where I'm folding down the backing, just kind of tacking that little bit on, and then using my ruler to help me push the contact paper and make sure it's level. You can see here I didn't get mine level and it's off center, and it started to show the white poster board underneath. So you don't want it to be crooked. So if you mess up, just go ahead and peel it back, and then you can actually reattach the backing. It's very forgiving. This stuff is pretty good. You're able to kind of attach the backing and roll it back up, and it turned out much better. So now it's level. This is the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of press the sides down and the corners, and I don't really care too much about what the bottom looks like, but the top, I'm going to cut myself a notch in each corner so that I can easily fold it down. Unlike the wood vases, it's not round, so I don't have to cut a bunch of notches. Just one will do in the corners to be able to ease those sides down. And everything turned out super cute. It looks really good, and no one knows that I covered it with a couple bucks. And if you have any kind of air bubbles or anything or creases, just use your fingernail to smooth those down and press those out, and it'll look a lot better. So that's what it looks like, and it's time to go ahead and fill it. So for a neutral look, I'm just gonna go ahead and fill it with the Slamsier garland, and I really like the way this looks. If it's not full enough, you can buy another garland, or you can put tissue paper or some paper shred from the Dollar Tree underneath to make it fuller. And then I'm just adding some fall picks to make it a little more fall. You can add pumpkins or whatever. The box only costs $3, but decorated it's about $23. And I did a more neutral version with some velvet pumpkins and some cotton bowls from the Dollar Tree. So that is everything. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to subscribe, love to have you, and I'll see you next time for the next video. Bye guys.